Hey everybody, Oliver Joyce from Whiskeybarrel Studios here, and how you doing? Welcome to part 2 of part 6 of Ask Me Anything. That's a mouthful and a half. First of all, I want to thank you for your patience. It was nearly 2 weeks ago I posted the questions video, and I got a lot of questions from the Discord channel, which had been piling up over a couple of months. And that took almost an hour to get through those all, so I was kind of exhausted by the end of it. And so I decided that let's do part 2 the following week. So here we are. Anyway, I've decided to answer these from newest to oldest, just because that's how it comes up in the questions feed. So if you want to know where your question is in a video, if it's questions towards the end of the comments, scroll towards the end of this video and you'll probably find it without having to listen to the whole thing. Some people have asked, can I put the questions up in video sequences, little images and so on? Not right now, just because it takes so long. There's like 100 questions often, and some of them are multi-part, so it requires significant editing. And I want to try and do this fairly quickly so I can get on with actually building the games and so on. If for some reason the channel ever blows up, I'll maybe hire someone to do it for me. That would be awesome. All right, let's jump into the questions. All right. Firstly, Chaos, the Scourge of Edengarth, asks, is Saul's Gateway under the control of the Iron Republic or the Sons of Frost? Because the location is in the zone of influence of both factions. Good question. I think it's kind of a contested area because it's in a strategic location of importance as a sort of a mountainous gateway towards the Arctic region. It's closer to Warmhaven, which is the Sons of Frost stronghold, but it's almost an autonomous area with a lot of wealth, a powerful arena, a historically significant cathedral in the Cathedral of Light, or whatever it was called. I forgot the name of it. And the Vengeful Pyramid is also a powerful historical site. And the Hypogeum, I think, which has all the gladiator tombs as well. So it's sort of protected by the kingdom. And, it's almost a autonomous region that both sides have interest in. Fat Skipper asks, question 1, Swords and Sandals 4 is a party game that can roll your dice and have fun with others, and it's also similar to Swords and Sandals 3, but almost like a party game. And would you like to remaster that after Swords and Sandals 3? I don't know. It's a really tough one to remaster just because the mini games were all done in very old versions of Flash by many different authors. I kind of reskinned a lot of them, but they're all done by people at the old company. I made about a third of those mini games, but the other ones were done by other programmers, and so the code is so messy. And I say that about a lot of the Sword and Sandals games, but this is right up there with the messiest of all the Swords and Sandals games. It's such a nightmare to try and bug fix and patch that I may never do a Redux version of that. Never say never, though. You never know. For now, I'll say no. Chaos also asks, will Antares or Chaos be back in Sword and Sandals 6? Well, as Chaos, you should know. I think Chaos will return because he has certain magic powers that sort of keep him from aging. But Antares is well and truly dead. He is cooked. He was destroyed at the end of Sword and Sandals 5. Unless you chose the evil ending. But even then, he was dead, wasn't he? Yeah. And he's also got some more. Whoa, he's got lots of questions. Which one is stronger in magic, Antares or Bargle? Since reanimating and keeping numerous undead soldiers sounds like something that requires some sort of strong and tiresome form of magic. Bargle is stronger. Bargle is the most powerful figure in all of Tritonia. He's basically an intergalactic sorcerer who's traveled the stars, and he kind of keeps neutral and he errs on the side of good, but he wants to keep the balance. He has powerful magics. However, he does not have the resurrect from the dead magic that Antares has. That's a special school of magic that comes from the pyramids of Eldor Hath, and necromancy basically took Antares a lot to learn and study, and only the ancient sorcerers of Eldor Hath know that power to bring people back from the dead. It's sort of used in the arena to bring back arena champions and so on, but only in the context of bringing them back for the purpose of fighting. So I'm going to say Bargle's a lot stronger. Will you release a downloadable map of Brandor? It should help a lot for the guys that use Swords and Sandals in D&D campaigns. That's so cool that you do Dungeons and Dragons campaigns based on Swords and Sandals. Yeah, I'm going to do that once I have a bit of time. One of the things I want to do is fix up the Tome of Lore, get it all the way up to date to Swords and Sandals 5 before I start on Swords and Sandals 6, and also do a high-res version of the Brandor map from Swords and Sandals Crusader with the province names and everything. So that'll be coming. Eventually, I'll do a full kind of world map with Eldor Hath and the other continent. I think it's like Uveric, or I can't remember what it was called. I've forgotten the name. It's written somewhere. But yeah, I will eventually. What do you think about some new mechanics to use in Swords and Sandals 6, like clicking certain buttons in sequence to play some sort of song, in which each button was a note, and if you follow the sequence, it activates effects? That'd be kind of fun. It might get a bit unwieldy in the terms of trying to do these things in a quick combat, but I might be able to incorporate something like that with a few quick notes, like you know how you play the Ocarina of Time in Zelda, maybe like do 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 do, and then some kind of cool spell. That might be worth considering. I'll write a note of that. Have you thought about body styles and character creations, like a slim gladiator with more strength than a muscular one, or a fat gladiator with full agility, being incredibly fast, and so on? I've thought about body types, and I definitely did them in Sword and Sandals 3. You had the slim, muscular, and fat, and that's something that I will consider for sure for Sword and Sandals 6. The only major issue is that sometimes the armor kind of looks funny. It doesn't quite fit in certain body types. You sort of have to do some kind of weird, tricky art to get it around that. Like, you almost have to hide the torso and so on squeeze it all in. We'll figure it out, but I'm thinking about it. Can races get mixed? Like, can Elderhathians have babies with the Cycladians? I don't know. I don't know. I'm assuming the biology all works. I haven't really explored that. What is a religion of Father Painbringer? These are all Hikaeos' questions, by the way. I'm interested in his gun-based religion. He follows Saul the One. Much like most sort of good-aligned characters in Swords and Sandals, he believes in Saul as a deity. And the gun thing is comes from the Badlands, where everyone's a cowboy and that kind of thing. Father Painbringer's origins actually come from Earth. Spoiler alert. He came through the Constellation Mirror, and he was actually a gunslinger from the Old West, a preacher gunslinger from there. And he's come through the Constellation Mirror. And the timeline thing's kind of weird, but I'll explain all that in a future thing. But that's one of my notes, that he's not from Brandor. But he loved guns and, Colts and Smith & Wessons and that sort of stuff. What do you think about pets or vehicles in Sword and Sandals 6? Vehicles, no. Pets, maybe. Some kind of magical creature that increases your magical regeneration, extra speed, and that kind of thing. That'd be cool. I definitely want to have some kind of like offsiders, whether it's a pet or a slave helper or something that can aid you in battles, and that's something that's may happen. Thanks for all your questions. Sebabutz writes, I've enjoyed playing your game since I was very, very young, especially Sword and Sandals 2, but the ending of Sword and Sandals 3 always stuck with me due to its uniquity, cool word, and the element of surprise. Is there any chance one day we might be able to play a game where the setting is in space and the player has to compete in the Galacticus Fantasticus? Yeah, for those who don't remember at the end, or spoiler alert, at the end of Sword and Sandals 3, Bargle picks you up in a spaceship along with some other gladiators from other planets and says, right, you're competing in a tournament amongst the stars with the best gladiators in the universe. That's what Sword and Sandals 4 was going to be. That was the whole plan of that. But it ended up getting scuttled by the old company, and unfortunately I had to do Sword and Sandals 4 as a bunch of mini-games, which is why I don't like that game as much as the others, because it really kind of screwed over my vision for the game. What I'm thinking is that Sword and Sandals 6 may have some kind of expansion sort of DLC kind of thing where that actually happens, and you have a rocket ship and you go around the stars, because I want that game to be expandable and have like a version where you can go through and play the Sword and Sandals 3 Arena Champions and Sword and Sandals 2 and so on, because I'm building that game for the future, just so I don't have to keep rebuilding the engine again and again. But one of them would be to do the Galacticus Fantasticus space tournament. That'd be fun. All right, Tarvod asks, why do you keep making the games worse? Sword and Sandals 2 and 5 Redux are worse than the classics. Okay, fair question, fair comment. I made them differently. They're definitely different from the originals. The pacing's different. They have more strategy and more detail, but something definitely was lost. And one of the things that was lost was the originals were made in pure Flash, which is really heavy on animation, and you can do all these really cool quick tweened animations and fast-moving cutscenes and stuff like that. Because I had to make these games for mobile and around sort of 2015, 2016, the technology I had at the time meant I couldn't do much in the way of animations. So it was a lot more linear and rigid. And I did a lot of tricks to try and make it as close to the originals as I could, but the tech just wasn't there. It seems weird that the new tech wasn't as good as the old tech, but I was just sort of stuck with that. And that was this program called Adobe Air and Starling. And Crusader Redux is the last game in the Starling Air engine. And from now on, I'll be using Godot or Unity. Godot? And that will allow me to do the beautiful smooth animations and quick cutscenes and transitions that hopefully bring the games back to that smooth, fast gameplay that you like in the old ones. But, some people love the classics. Some people love the Redux. That's why there's both. This is not meant to replace those. It's more a reimagining. But thanks for your constructive criticism. Dilsano7 asks, who does the deep voices in the Sword and Sandals games, like the voice you hear when you enter a shop in Sword and Sandals 2 and 5 Redux? It's a guy called Roscoe Lewis, and you can look him up on Google, and he's a great voiceover guy. He's actually younger than I am. He's in his late 30s, I believe. He might be 40 now, and he has a great voice. He's a British guy who does all sorts of different voices, and one of them is the old man Gandalf voice. The "Welcome to Swords and Sandals, Crusader," that kind of thing. You have just leveled up, that kind of stuff. I love his voices. I'm going to try and use him again for Sword and Sandals 6. He's in Crusader Redux, coming out soon too. So I Like Spamming asks, hey, I remember playing Sword and Sandals 2, 3, and 4 with my cousins for hours and hours and having so much fun. After checking out a couple of your vids, I have one question. Are you planning on continuing the story where Sword and Sandals 3 left off, where the automatons planet fight from other automatons planet to fight champions from other planets? As answered in the question above, check just earlier if you missed that. I do plan on continuing that, probably in an expansion to Sword and Sandals 6. Not as the main storyline, though. Python asks, what inspired you to create Swords and Sandals? Excellent question. So I was inspired by... let's move this camera down a little bit. Get a little bit more intimate with you. I have been building these gladiator-style games since I was a kid. I was really into Dungeons & Dragons and fighting fantasy game books and Tunnels and Trolls and that kind of thing, which you wouldn't remember. You're far too young. But one of those books was set in an arena, and it was called Trial of Champions. And that really stuck with me. And it was all about sort of fighting different monsters in an arena. And so when I first learned to program as a kid, I learned BASIC, which is very simple. It's a basic programming language. And it was all only text. And so I made a little arena fighting game where you could create a character and fight pre-programmed enemies by typing, attack and that kind of thing. And unfortunately, that code is long gone, but it was set the seeds for future Sword and Sandals. Back then, it was called Arena of Death. And I kept making them. Eventually, when Flash came out, I started making one called Who Wants to Be a Gladiator? And that had the full sort of combat. And you can find that in one of my videos on the channel. You can find the origins of it. You have to scroll through one of the old videos, but you can actually see what it looked like. But it was inspired by Dungeons & Dragons, Tunnels and Trolls, fighting fantasy, and the movie Gladiator was a big part of it as well. And He-Man. The character design, everything, and all the different colors and everything was inspired by He-Man. Chaos asks, why do you look into the camera like you're staring deep into our souls? Because I am. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. I'm sorry. That is scary for everybody. Argent477 asks, you should do a free online Sword and Sandals for smartphones, like to focus on competitive online gaming. I want to do a competitive version of Sword and Sandals 6. None of these games will be free, just because that's my business now. I can't give everything away for free, but there's always a free downloadable version that's kind of demo locked, and you can unlock the rest if you enjoy it. That's the business model right now. Sword and Sandals 6 might have, in-app purchase consumables and currency and stuff like that. I don't know. We'll see. I got to study all that. I want to do what's right for you guys as well as what's right for the business. But competitive gaming will be there. There will be multiplayer and so on. And it's time for a drinks break. Sponsored by water. That cool, refreshing drink. Briny. No, it's good. It's nice fresh water. Good water in Australia. In Sydney especially. Chaos, who's all over this list, asks, which ending of Sword and Sandals 5 is canon? The evil one or the good one? The good one. The evil one is sort of an alternate thing that would ruin Brandor, but the good one where Antares is destroyed and the realm is saved. Snoop Murloc asks, Murlocs, how old were you when you first made the first and second game of Sword and Sandals? Man, I was about 25. It was a while ago, so 2006, yeah. Gosh, yeah, about 25 or so. When I originally first started programming, I was maybe 20, 21, but it sat for a long time before I could actually get to... I started making it when I was working at the old company, but, before I was working at the old company, and I was able to finish it there. So, yeah, basically started... it was... When it was released, 25 or so. I feel old now. Who wrote the music? I wrote the music for... the classic theme and the gladiator. I did all that and recorded on a Casio keyboard back in the day. I did the music for Sword and Sandals 1, 2, and 3. The heavy metal gladiator theme was done by some friends of mine that used to work at the old company, and they had a band called Deconstructivists. Gabriel Castro and Daniel Kinder, who are an awesome metal band, and they just came to me one day with the theme for the game, the gladiator. And that became the official theme song for that game, and it was, really popular. And since then, other composers have done music for the sequels, for Sword and Sandals Medieval, the Redux versions, and so on. Adrian Galassi, Alex Tassani, amongst others. Marcus Dagg did an awesome theme. And yeah, so I've had a lot of composers since then, but I try to do the original theme of the game, and then they do variations of it. Who made the sound effects? They're from everywhere. They're all over the place. All sorts of collections online, free sound collections and so on. The yells and screams were done about 20-something years ago by some guy called... I can't remember his name, but you've heard them in other things. They've been used in movies and so on before. Children and men actually use the screams. In the newer games, I did all the screams, though. Hikaos also asks, some of the factions in Crusaders have high-tech stuff like the Colossus, and if they are so technologically advanced, why don't they better equip their troops? Well, they had to find and build the Colossus based on some plans. I don't know, it's a good question. They should probably equip their troops with sort of mechanical bits and pieces, but the Iron Giant is its own sort of unique entity. All cogs and gears and so on, but they really haven't been able to sort of scale that technology down to their own stuff. Oscarius 4250, Oscar Sampson, asks, of which arena champion that you made are you most proud of? In terms of personality, style, look. From the old school ones, I kind of like John the Butcher because he's the silliest and he has the hat of ham, and he was actually my old boss, one of my old bosses when I was a kid. So I'm kind of find it funny that I was able to immortalize him in a game. And of the new Redux ones, I like what's his name? There's a pro wrestler. I forgot. Ultra Flavius is his name. I think he's really cool, but he might not even be in any of the games. I can't remember now. Ultra Flavius. He's this pro wrestler. He might even be in Sword and Sandals 6. I'm getting confused, but he's this kind of fat, retired pro wrestler that is a bit sort of like down on his luck and he's trying his hand in the arena. But I really like him. I like Tutuki the Volcano, who's got this kind of cool islander vibe to him and he's really positive and so on. I like the design of Ultrada Omegas with his twin chainsaws. I like them all for different reasons, tell you my least favorite is the Yeti Project, because he's everyone's least favorite. So, Gia Baovu, I'm sorry, Gia Baovu, I might have totally bollocks that name, sorry, asks, when will Archangel Arcturus be revealed? And when will Sword and Sandals Constellation Mirror be released? Lol, yeah. No end date, no release date for Sword and Sandals Constellation Mirror. It could be many, many years away. For those who don't know, that is a full-on big RPG I want to make in the style of Ultima and Divinity and those kind of games, Pillars of Eternity, that kind of thing, but set in the Sword and Sandals universe. I've written about 100 pages of notes and characters and maps and NPCs and items and so on for the game over the years. Even it had some sort of pixel art portraits done. But if Sword and Sandals 6 is a big success, that'll give me the green light to make Constellation Mirror. But if Sword and Sandals 6 doesn't do very well, it might be the end of those big projects, and I might have to move on to something else, hopefully. But Archangel Arcturus will be revealed in Sword and Sandals 6. She's the sister of Sandalphon or something like that. I can't remember. No, she's part of they're both angels anyway. Mateus asks, will you keep releasing updates of DLCs to Crusader Redux when you have time? Adding campaigns from different timelines would be interesting, and allowing new factions and so on. If that did really well, and all of a sudden that was a huge seller and people wanted it, I would think about making some DLC, extra campaigns and so on. But there's not that much more I can do with the missions and so on, because it starts getting kind of repetitive as far as, destroy that castle, conquer that province, earn this much gold. So I'd have to do some serious work to the engine to make it worth your time to play through. But yeah, if it was hugely popular, then I would. And he also asked, for Sword and Sandals 6, please consider making many arenas across Brandor that could be unique in style, and gladiators could have equipment suitable to cultural. That's kind of cool. It's a definitely idea. I definitely want to have the player travel across Brandor, and each arena have its own unique thing. There's going to be like a celebrity arena, which will have all the sort of, basically the Moist Critical / Charlie Penguins, and other YouTube celebrities. That will be sort of like its own special Las Vegas style arena, and there'll be like an evil arena down near Eldor Hath and that kind of stuff. I want to make the locations a bit more exotic and exciting than in the past. And for Swords and Sandals 6, please do not add alignment like it was in 3, because it wasn't much fun and made the fights longer than they should be. It could be replaced by fatalities. We'll see. I'll work out what I'm going to do. I do like the thumbs up, thumbs down system, sparing a life or killing, but alignment might disappear. And please don't make Sword and Sandals 6 characters in classic Sword and Sandals 2 style. Don't be afraid to make new things. Can be better looking and more realistic animations if they're styled similar to Sword and Sandals 3. I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards Sword and Sandals 2, but having them totally reanimated and, done less rigid like that. But I like that style, and, I think a lot of people do. So that's currently where I'm thinking. And Siberia asks, why did you delay the game from the 10th to the 27th and now November 4th? November 4th now, sorry. He's really upset. I'm sorry. I know I kept promising Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux. It just had a lot of delays, and the latest one was because of marketing. We wanted to try and get the game out to a bunch of YouTubers and Twitch streamers and that kind of thing. And because of that, the game had to be delayed while they could, spread their tendrils far and wide. But it did give me the chance to do the upgrades to troops and add a few other things. So you're going to get a better game for it. I promise. Everyone seems to doubt me on this, but November 4th is the launch date. I promise. Because I'm clapping. Makes it legit. Bargle Dargle asks, I didn't read the other questions. Shame on you, sir. Shame on you. So forgive me if I'm repeating. But why not have a local network in Sword and Sandals Crusader? Just too hard, too much work at the time. It was just not so much the networking code, it was just the actual logistics of it. Just because the code was too messy, unfortunately. It was considered at the beginning, but then I'm not going to blame the pandemic and everything, but everything got kind of screwed up this year by just everything. And, having a kid and everything, a second kid just time got away from me. I didn't plan on this game taking as long as it would, and so adding multiplayer just would have thrown that out even further than it already did. But yeah, it's something I wanted to do, and I'm sorry that I couldn't have done it. But I do promise Sword and Sandals 6 will be designed from the beginning with multiplayer. Purple Weed asks, why is the game delayed? Such sad news. I hope it's because you're working on those upgraded looks. Yeah, and I was. That's right. He also wrote a comment about the upgrades and so on. It is happening, yeah. You've seen in the video from yesterday, all the upgraded troops have new art styles, which is kind of cool. Mura asks, why you not add your games as an option to have a companion or a slave who can fight by your side? After you defeat him, we can kill him or spare him, and they can fight by your side. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe not for bosses, but simple enemies. But it's not a bad idea having, defeated enemies you can kind of hire as your mercenary slaves and so on. That's something I'll definitely consider. Thanks for the idea. It got me thinking. Retsum asks, I just had the Sword and Sandals jingle in my head and had to listen to it again on YouTube. What a weird nostalgia. Anyway, I'll catch up on the newest info for an upcoming game. That's epic. Awesome. Thanks. I'm glad you like the classic song. It still holds up after all these years. Still as as simple and earwormy as it ever was. I'm glad you like it. Thanks, mate. Favonian asks, hi, could you make a video about going through the code textures of Sword and Sandals 3? I'd love to see that. As a game developer myself, I could learn something new. Greetings from Finland. Greetings to Finland. Finland is a lot of fans from there. I get emails from Finland now and again, and a place I'd love to visit. My mum has been there, and she spoke very highly of it. I did a video on the making of Sword and Sandals 3 years and years ago. If you go through my old videos, I think it might be Ollie Plays Sword and Sandals 3. It might be. I can't be. Maybe it's not that. It's one of my old videos, but perhaps I'll do another one in more detail again soon. I don't know how much of it will be relevant because it's all done in the old ActionScript language in Flash, but maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll learn how not to put something together. But good luck with your own game dev. I wish you the best. Mr. D123 asks, what type of weapon do you prefer? Sword, axe, club, or bow? And my axe! Sword. I love swords. Swords are just something kind of epic about them. Something brave, and knights and swords and so on. My least favorite is the bow, because the bow is the coward's weapon. Not really, but I actually tried to fire a bow in Mongolia. I was in the Mongolian desert. This is part of my honeymoon. It's a beautiful place to go for your honeymoon, the Gobi Desert. Mongolia is actually a beautiful country. It's a stunning place. But our guide, he's a young guy, and he said, all right, Ollie, lift this bow. He pulled it back, and he fired it off in the distance. Soared through the air. Bullseye. 50 feet away. Just a great archer. Then I tried it, and I could barely even move the bow. I've got video of it. I should upload it. It'd be very embarrassing, but I'm weak. Unfortunately. Strong in the mind, but lazy and weak. So no bows for me. I have a sword, though. I have the sword from Lord of the Rings, Aragorn's sword, Narsil, before it becomes Anduril. Do you like making games? I love making games. I would make games even if it wasn't my job. I feel very fortunate that I'm in this position that I can make games for a career. It's one of those really just, I feel blessed. And, I've been making games since I was a kid, to the point where, I'd almost prefer to make games and play them most of the time. But it does get a bit exhausting, Sometimes you can't switch off. You just think, everything you're thinking about, game logic and game development, and, this would make a cool game. What should I do? The Ancient Madness, cool name, asks, is there still a chance to make Sword and Sandals Classic into an Android version? Any chance? I wish there was, but unfortunately the old code was done in ActionScript 2, old Flash games. It just doesn't convert. You can't compile them into Android or iOS. I would so love to do it. I really would. If I could pay someone to somehow do that, I would. So if anyone knows a way, whether it's through hacks or someone they well, please let me know. Yago asks, is grandson of Stylian coming back to avenge his father's death by the hands of the Ninja Redux in Sword and Sandals 6? Yes. It'll just be grandson, or maybe it'll be great-grandson. Depends how much time's passed. But yes, they'll be back for sure. Heinz asks, I know that multiplayer is hard and you need server maintenance and everything, but consider it knowing that it'll be perfect for the community you've created and will bring us a lot of joy to come together on one of your games. and maybe it would bring joy to you too. Yes, absolutely. And I've mentioned it a few times before, but 100%, that is the primary focus of Sword and Sandals 6. There will be a single-player campaign that will be lengthy and fun with a great storyline, but I really want the multiplayer to happen. I want to bring back that joy that I had playing against and seeing people fighting in multiplayer Ultratus of Sword and Sandals 3. That was one of the gaming highs of my life, seeing thousands of people online fighting each other before the whole server crash and it never happened again. But yeah, it's coming back. Mr. Shanks asks, hello Ollie, my question is, are you planning adding anything to break the monotony of the Sword and Sandals formula for 6? One of the main criticisms, for me at least, is the repetitiveness. The minigames are definitely a step in the right direction, but I'm curious if you build upon that. Yeah, I get that criticism because the fights can become very samey. I mean, that is kind of the crux of the game, I guess, in that, is Street Fighter repetitive? I guess it is. Guess it's not. What I want to try to do to alleviate that is to make strategies and fights much deeper and much more tactical, still keeping the fun aspect of it and the quick turn-based nature of it. But I think having better combat that is more addictive and more surprising will certainly alleviate the repetitive nature. I also want to have, collectibles you can get, and the process of upgrading and designing your armor and everything. I want that to be part of it. Mini games, maybe not. We'll see. But maybe even just the process of traveling around Brandor could be something fun. In the way that Darkest Dungeon, if you've ever played that, has the dungeon crawling aspect and the combat and the town, perhaps I need some kind of middle area that, breaks things up a little bit. I'm quite inspired by Darkest Dungeons. Aquatwisty asks, have you ever beaten any of the Sword and Sandals games from start to the end? I've beaten 1 and 2. None of the others. How bad is that? I'm so terrible. And Spartacus, of course. And Pirates, but doesn't really count. But I haven't beaten any of the others. I've beaten them with cheats, but without cheats, I haven't, which is kind of crazy, right? So I'm always impressed by people who've actually defeated them, which is sometimes where they're not so balanced, because I really should try and actually beat them without cheats. Elias asks, will you ever create a remake of Sword and Sandals 3 Solo Ultratus? Because, the best Flash game out there. Maybe not a straight up redux of it, even though a lot of people ask for it, so it does tempt me. But I want to see how Sword and Sandals 6 goes, and if it's something I can do as a DLC, expansion on it, just with all the Sword and Sandals tournaments. But then again, that might be so different from 3 that, who knows? It's something that's, on the burner. Unusual YouTuber asks, beef or chicken? Chicken. I like them both, though. Tendo asks, will you ever see Sword and Sandals 3 characters again, the style? The current style is a classic. I think the armors and weapons look more menacing in the Sword and Sandals 3 style. They do, because it's kind of more hulking and dangerous. I don't know. I kind of thought about it, because I haven't designed the new ones yet, but I'm thinking about sort of getting them halfway between 2 and 3 would be kind of cool. Thanks for the compliment too, by the way. Nem asks, the problem with your Steam games is not many people know about them, that you're still doing the series. I found it by accident. You should try to reach out to the old fans, as it was one of the most popular Flash games. Do you think it's possible how you do that? Yeah, I'm trying. We try. You've probably seen a lot of Reddit ads and Twitter ads, and we do try, and we spend, a fair bit each month on advertising and marketing. But there's so many people out there. There's millions that played them back in the day. So, slowly reaching them as best I can. It might take a while. But it's nice to know there's still this sort of untapped resource of fans out there that, haven't played the games and, would be able to reach. And hopefully Sword and Sandals 6 can reach them as well and say, hey, come back into the fold. We've got new Sword and Sandals. Second question, will you make another game like 4 or remake it like a board game? It was an unpopular opinion, but my favorite game. Wow. That's, a lot of people kind of have said that to me about 4. I'm always surprised that so many people like it. And I think if I was ever to do it, I'd do a complete remake, even almost a sequel to Tavern Quests, but with different mini games, all different styles, because it's so hard to remake that old one, and different art and everything. Duffy TV asks 2 questions. Will Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux have the same hilarious sound effects, like the soldier deaths, like the classical? Yeah, it has the same sound effects, and new ones as well, and new music and everything. What do you got planned for Sword and Sandals 6? What kind of game will it be? It'll be Gladiators, pure arena fighting game, but you go around Brandor. It's set in the future, of Brandor, where the automatons return, bringing with them powerful technology, and there's a new threat to Brandor that you all have to work together, and new powerful arena champions, and there'll be, multiplayer, and it's going to be a lot of fun. This, hopefully, is the culmination of all my knowledge, everything I've learned about Swords and Sandals finally brought together. Emperor Antares asks, "Greetings, Sir Oliver Joyce. I'm a knight now. I am the mighty Emperor." He's using his Antares, so I should do that.
"I am the mighty Emperor Antares of Eldohath. I have read the books written by you and your son Isaac during my time at the Four Oceans and in Doomtrek. I have some questions before I go visit my friends in Brandor. Don't lie to me, or you will taste my battle magic."
It hurts to do that voice. That's the voice from the new trailer for those who are confused. But he asks, "Do you know how powerful a wizard Bargle Yagi is? He's already messed up with my plans twice. Does he have any weak points?" You'll never find out, Antares. You'll never find out. But he's more powerful than you are. "Do you know a wizard who is at least as powerful as Bargle and is smart enough to help me and my allies Arglax and Chaos? What can you tell me about that wizard? I plan to meet him soon." Him? He is a she. It's actually the enchanter Tectonica. Veronica Tectonica is her name, and she's a powerful enchanter, and she appears in Sword and Sandals Crusader 3 Redux. And she has a bone to pick with Bargle and also the wizard Sagan Z, who turned her pet Shih Tzu into the Shih Tzu Ranchula. Dun dun dun. That's a little tidbit in there for you. But yeah, she's in the game. He also asks, "Hypothetically, is it possible to transfer an army through the Constellation Mirror to a world that I choose?" Not that I plan to do it, of course. It's a one-way portal that we know of. One way only. So no, Antares, you won't be dominating other worlds soon. Anything you could say about the Master Malevolence? He's helped me ride into greatness. I plan to invite him to try something soon. Well, you tried that in Sword and Sandals 5, and it failed miserably for you. So I don't believe that you will be having any more dealings with him, although he may return in Sword and Sandals 6, not as the primary antagonist. Great questions, though. This is hilarious. It's brilliant. Abdullah Speedruns asks, Abdullah is awesome. He's the best speedrunner in the world. He has lots of world records for Sword and Sandals. Have you ever seen a Sword and Sandals 2 speedrun before? I've watched one of yours, I think. It's phenomenal. You guys are so fast. You're finishing the game in, 10, 20 minutes. Are you planning to react to some speedruns in the future? Yeah, that'd be cool. We could put one up on a video and I'll be in the corner and just watch. That sounds good. It's a great idea. Chris Chu asks, I have some questions about the lore. How many suns and moons does Tritonia have? In the Tome of Lore, it said it has one pale moon, and it also said it has two moons, Ao and Uriel. How many are there? It's meant to be two. I should go back through the lore and fix that. In the Tome of Lore, the land of Eureka was mentioned as a continent, but then you said there's three continents, Brandor, Eldahath, and Sagalis. So where is Eureka? That's missing. Actually, I can't remember. I get confused. I believe Eureka is the fabled lost continent, but then sometimes I've called Sagalis the fabled lost continent. It's one of the two. There's meant to be Eldahath and Brandor are the two main continents, and there's a balancing continent across the sea. But it's a whole thing with this lore. I'm always contradicting myself because I forget. What's the name of King Lionel's son and heir? I once read about him, but I couldn't find any more. I can't remember if he had a son. Yeah, okay, so in Constellation Mirror, he has twin sons, Leopold and Ludwig, and they will be appearing in Constellation Mirror, or even Sword and Sandals 6. Speaking of descendants, will Constellation Mirror have the same classic characters as the new ones? He did the math, and if Chaos was 17 at Pirates, it'd be 79 at Constellation Mirror. So yeah, most of them will be old or dead by then. Chaos will not, because he has done some dark powers, done a dark deal with the demons, a lot of D's, to sort of increase his age. And so he will return. Will a Starborn Gladiator return? Yeah, he'll be back in Swords and Sandals 6. Where does it take place? All over Brandor, for sure. So Eldahath, maybe Pilthia, maybe the Badlands. What other cool locations? Maybe in Drakkendir, or they probably wouldn't like having an arena in the Holy City, but we'll see. But yeah, some famous locations all throughout Brandor, I think. Does Spartacus and Medieval take place on the same planet? The same, yeah, it does. Earth, basically. Does that mean the constellation Mirror also allows time travel? Yes, yeah, it does. But it's a weird time distillation thing. Almost, I was kind of inspired by Interstellar, where 1 hour passes on one planet and a year passes on another, that kind of thing. So people can come through from Earth, and they might be in the Middle Ages, or say ancient Rome. Then they arrive on Brandor, and 1,000 years pass on Earth, and a samurai comes through, and only a couple of years have passed in Brandor. So that's why we have all this weird technology coming through. That's why Father Painbringer, the gunslinger, is also from Earth, and he's sort of a cowboy. And that's why he chaos and everything. And Spartacus, who will be in Sword and Six, comes through also. So, is King Lionel the king of all Brandor, only king of Phaetor? Is each province in the Crusades independent state in law? They're all vassals of Phaetor. They're kind of like you said, feudal states. So Phaetor is the most powerful nation in the realm and the most wealthy. Drakendir has the biggest army, but they're sort of in league with the Phaetorians as a big alliance. And Braxis is probably the most wealthy and pure wealth, but Phaetor is a good mixture of arms and wealth and prestige and power, and the sort of the breadbasket of the realm and everything. So they're basically in alliance with Braxis and Drakendir, but not everyone else in the realm kind of pays homage to them. Like the Cycladians down the south are independent. Nobody in Edengarth pays taxes or anything like that. Up in Warmhaven, they don't care. So Phaetor is the most dominant power in the realm, but he's not the king of all Brandor, even though he likes to think he is. There's only one king in Brandor, but not everybody recognizes that he's a king. Complicated. Sometimes I don't think about it enough. So Chudinsky Stovreniko. I'm so bad with his names. Dvorniko. Sorry. Terrible at these names. Butchered it. He has lots of questions. What do you think about the furry community? I know they're out there. I've never had any real dealings with them. I know they're big on anime and stuff like that. But never had any dealings with them. What do you think? What do you think about the new Minecraft Caves and Cliffs update? I've never really played Minecraft, but I think it's an awesome idea. I think caves would add heaps to the game, and big cliffs and stuff. I should check it out. My nieces love Minecraft, so I should ask them on the weekend. Who's your favorite singer? My favorite is Kanye West and Mac Miller. What do you think about them? Kanye's a legend. He's one of the greats. Mac Miller, I haven't really heard of. I'm kind of old. My favorite singers were Freddie Mercury and George Michael back in the day. So I'm a little older than you. My favorite singer right now is Brandon Flowers from The Killers, and Sarah Bareilles. She's a beautiful singer. My favorite rapper is Tupac back in the day, and Snoopy Dogg. And my favorite sort of folk singer-songwriter is a guy called Josh Ritter. I've got lots of musical influences, and you kind of do that as you get older, but definitely Kanye is big player, and billionaire now. Have you watched Ghibli films? Yeah, I love them. I watch them with my children too. Studio Ghibli, my favorite one. His favorite one is Howl's Moving Castle, and I love that film too. My favorite is Spirited Away. And of course Totoro. Who doesn't love that? You played Stardew Valley. Favorite game of all time. Wow, awesome. I've only played a little bit of it. I've got it on the Switch, and it looks beautiful, and I can see how addictive it is. But I haven't had much time to play it, So, do you have any connection with living off grid or living in the woods? Never thought about it. I kind of like my creature comforts too much, but I do like getting out for bushwalks and hikes. That's one of my favorite things to do is to get out and just to be amongst nature and clear my head and just basically rebuild that creative capital. What are the best places you've traveled on Earth? I've been lucky, and I'm older than most of you guys. I'm 42 now. I'm an old timer, and I was able to travel a lot when I was young, and all through my 20s and 30s. And because I didn't get settled down and married until my mid 30s, I had a lot of time as a single guy to travel. So been around lots of parts of the world. Some of my favorite destinations, Egypt was incredible. Morocco, stunning, the Atlas Mountains there, and just incredible sort of desert scenery. Mongolia is one of my favorite countries on earth. Just sublime. Italy, ancient Rome, incredible. New York, who doesn't love New York? Just stunning. Japan is everything you imagine it would be. A great mixture of old and new, big cities like Tokyo, and then beautiful little towns with classic, feudal style castles and so on. The world is a big place, but small, made smaller by travel. And I think if you have the means and the time, I highly recommend travel as much as you can, meet people, get experiences, learn about the bigger world out there. And it's not possible for many people, and that's why things like the internet and documentaries and so on is so powerful, to just get an understanding of each other and other cultures. But if you can travel, do so. I'd love to go to Eastern Europe. That's one place I've not really been. I've been to Czech Republic, but never any further than that. And I'd love to go and see Romania and Poland and Hungary and places like that. Have you been in any national parks? My dream is to go to Yosemite. I'd love to go to Yosemite too. I've been to Grand Canyon National Park in America, but only to the Grand Canyon. I'd love to see some of the huge national parks in America as well. Yellowstone, that kind of thing. There's lots of national parks in Australia as well. And China. I've been to China, and I only went to Beijing though because my wife and I were going to explore the whole, national parks around China and so on for our honeymoon. But when she got pregnant, they told us we can't go because it was a malaria risk. So we had to kind of cut our journey short. Mind you, we still went to Mongolia and went to the Gobi Desert. So anyway, that's probably, I don't know if you guys find that interesting. That's sort of, not really game related. It's more about my life. But I always wanted to, try and share with you all me, myself, and, just allow you to get to know me as a person. This is when you buy into Sword and Sandals, you buy into me, and I'm as much part of Sword and Sandals as it is part of me. And, I think the more we get to know each other, the more you can understand, the psychology behind the games. And, and I appreciate that people want to sit there and spend half an hour with me, or 45 minutes as at the moment, 47 minutes actually. So it's anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. All right. Have you ever watched some serials? No, like Adventure Time and Gravity Falls. Never seen them. What do you think about classical music? I love it. I often have some Tchaikovsky or Bach or something like that playing in the background. It's a mathematical style music, and that kind of music allows you to concentrate, especially as a programmer. It's beautiful. My mum has always been into music and classical music, and she played a lot when we were kids, and even now she plays it for my son Isaac, and they march around the house. It's really cute. Thank you for asking so many questions, Chudinsky. I'm honored that you took the time. You've asked me questions before, so I want to say thanks for being a fan of the series, mate. I appreciate it. Okay, Liz Milicu asks, what game engine do you use? Do you recommend the game engine you use? Are you planning to do a programming tutorial series? By the way, I love your work. Sword and Sound's one of my favorite communities. Greetings from Kosovo. Oh, wow, Kosovo. It's another place I'd love to visit as well. So many places in the world, that you can never get to. But Eastern Europe is definitely one of those places that it's a rich history and a beautiful country and beautiful people, from what I gather. I used in the past Adobe Air and Flash and Starling, which is kind of like a framework. Air is like a graphics accelerated version of Flash. And the reason I've still been using them, uno momento, is because all the old games are made in Flash, and I've got so much legacy code that I've had to sort of port over. That was just the easiest way to get it done and dusted. But that engine is so long in the tooth now that Crusader Redux is the very last game that I'll be using in that, using ActionScript and Air. Last year I used Unity to make Spartacus, which was a platform game. And that was cool. C# and Unity. I had a lot of fun with that. I found Unity very, very powerful and awesome for particles and shaders and stuff. But it got pretty bloated. It really got, it's every time you update it, you worry about your program, your project having incompatibilities, and there's so much third-party code and asset store and everything. Super powerful, but it gets super complicated. So for the next game, I'll probably be using Godot, or Godot, as a lot of people call it. And if you're a programmer getting started, I recommend trying it out because it's open source and free, and has a great community as well. Are you planning to do a programming series? I'm not, but here's a shout out to my friend John Stayscale at Lost Relic Games, who has his own video channel on programming in Unity, and you can check it out. Just type in Lost Relic Games. He is a good friend of mine, and we sort of share game dev knowledge, and we often go on hikes together, which we video sometimes. And if you want to know more about programming in Unity, similar to Bracky's, but I think it's a little bit more concise, and I kind of like it. So check it out. And greetings to Kosovo from Sydney, Australia. How are we going with these questions? We got a few left. We're going to go over an hour here. Crazy. KBHD asks, how will combat systems in Sword and Sentinel 6 work? To be determined, but it's going to be a mixture of turn-based combat with action points, much like XCOM. Will be roguelike elements, possibly in terms of weapons and armor and so on, but not so much in terms of sort of roguelike dungeons or anything. Possible to add mods, thinking about it, at least in terms of maybe being able to customize your character face and so on, maybe put a photo or something like that. It might be, something I can do. We'll see. Who's your favorite song or singer? As I mentioned earlier, Freddie Mercury was my favorite singer of all time. I didn't have a favorite song. For a while there, it was Somebody to Love by Queen. My other favorite song is King of Wishful Thinking from the 80s band Go West. It's way older than you think. But, I have a lot of nostalgia for stuff from the 80s. Some dude asks, will Sword and Sandals 6 use classes and points, and will have co-op and or PvP? Definitely will have points. So not so much mage, fighter, everything like that. But it'll have a point system and different skill trees. You can, arcane, fighting, music, that kind of stuff. And it'll have PvP. I don't know, maybe co-op versus an NPC boss. If I can get it done, I will. Or teams. Team competitive versus, that'd be kind of fun. 2 human players versus 2 other human players. We'll see. I keep kind of expanding the scope of this game, but I haven't even started on it yet. Baha Killicup asks, what do you think about multiplayer for the games? Bit of an explosion. Yeah, as I mentioned before, it's happening, my friends. It is happening. We're going to have multiplayer, and hopefully this is the game that finally puts Sword and Sandals on the wider map so more people know about it. Because I want you guys to be, right at the ground floor of let's make this thing big. So a Knight asks, is it going to be a same computer multiplayer or LAN game? Probably not. I thought about it, but unless I do some kind of if I do another party game like a Sword and Sandals 4 remake, that'll be local multiplayer. Goldshuss asks, in a free-for-all match with all leaders, the green team used to be a disadvantage because there were only 2 leaders in the original Crusader. Will there be 3 leaders for green in Redux? If not, will that aspect be compensated? No. They, what he means is, so Arglax, He Chaos, and Antares are aligned. Lionel, Belgrave, and Wolfgamer are aligned, but Boars and Stella and Helmgard are neutral. That's the price of being neutral. They are small players in a big world, so unfortunately they don't get any particular advantage, except maybe starting at the top of the map. You only have attackers coming from below. You're not sort of surrounded on all sides. Joshua Foot asks, are there going to be 8 faction leaders? Yeah, in Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux, same as the first one. There's 8 or 9 extra missions, though. Shadowgun HD asks, do you play mobile games? Used to play them all the time. Don't play them so much anymore, but I did earlier this week play a game called Auto Battle, because the developer of it, a guy called William, got in touch with me on Twitter, on Discord, and wanted to talk shop, and I was really impressed with that. That's a cool, auto battle style game where you upgrade your characters and get mercenaries to help. So check that out. Joshua Mills asks, if you go anywhere in the world, what is the number 1 place you'd like to visit? If I could go anywhere next, I want to go to South America, actually. I want to visit, the salt flats and Machu Picchu and the Amazon and Brazil, and there's just so much there. I feel like that may not happen until I'm a lot older. It's because they're young kids, and it's just not so possible to travel around such a vast place. What about you? Where would you go? Great Zeus asks, why does a blacksmith get so mad when you don't buy stuff in Sword and Sandals 2? All right. So some people know this, some people don't. And I did a video on a game ages ago. If you search my channel for Ollie plays or Games Gladiator on Zeliard, Zeliard, you'll see the origins of the blacksmith. And I basically ripped it off that. You go to a shop in that game, and there's a blacksmith, and if you don't buy anything, he goes, "Rah!" and slams down the table and says exactly the same thing. If you're going to waste my time, please be on your way. I ripped it off that. When I was a kid, that was a game. It was a game from the 80s, a Japanese PC role-playing game that was, popular way back then. But it's from that. And I loved it so much. But no one's ever heard of it. They think that I came up with it. But he gets angry just because he's a hot temper and he's in a forge. It's hard working in a forge all day. Great question, though. JPEG Jason asks what Sword and Sandals 6 is going to be about. I answered that earlier, but if you didn't catch that, it's going to be the automatons return to Brandor, bringing with them special new powers and technology, whole new gladiator tournament set sort of 20, 30 years down the track. A powerful new enemy threat arrives who isn't the automatons, and the gladiators have to band together and fight each other. It's going to be epic, but purely arena fighting is the main gist of the game. Yuri asks, I have a question. I want to make a game, but I have no idea how to actually make the idea come true. Tell me if you know anything about 3D developing. And he tells me a bit about the game that he wants to make. First of all, I would say if you want to do 3D, maybe download Unity and just do a few basic tutorials. Brackies have a bunch of great tutorials on it over the years. There are so many great 3D tutorials. I made a 3D game years ago called Dark Rolls, which is a bit of a piss take on Dark Souls, but it didn't do very well, so I took it down off the App Store. I'm not very good at 3D, and my specialty is 2D, but there's definitely a lot of great resources out there for that. Just excuse me for a minute. I'm going to take a quick break. Several hours later, actually no, that was my wife on the phone. I'm going to do another 10 minutes of these, and then I'm going to take a break for a few hours, and then I'll do some more later, just because my little boy's coming home from daycare and he's not well, unfortunately. This is a long video. This whole thing is going to go for probably an hour and a half, so bear with me. Okay, Dio asks, will you add in a near update more possibilities or a map edit to Crusader Redux? Unfortunately not. That game's kind of done and dusted. I need to focus on 6 now. But if it's really popular, then one day I'll do a proper sequel to it with a lot more going on. So Netflix asks, are the things you left in the final build of any Sword and Sandals games I thought I should have removed this or I could have done better on this specific? Every one of them has something that I wish I hadn't done. I can't think of any specifics right now, but some of them are just a bit too bloated or a mechanic that didn't quite work, or maybe sometimes the transitions between screens are too slow, or but every time you're never quite happy with the game. You always feel like you could tinker with it forever. Piggybacking off that question, I've heard from others that Sword and Sandals 3 have one problem that limited the win condition for the game. By this I mean the difficulty of the arena champions jump quite significantly after the Yeti boss, to the point where people claim the only way to win is through being a magic user. Or perhaps we're just not going about it the right way. I never finished the game. How bad is that? I did beat the Yeti project. I used magic. I think that was definitely overpowered in that game. But you can sort of change your build throughout the game a little bit. But you tell me if... I've seen people finish the game with warriors, but definitely that boss certainly ruins things for people. But this is one of those things that the fans in Discord know way more about the strategies than I do. Lastly, random fun question. Is the wildlife in Australia as crazy as people say, or do you think it's exaggerated? Yeah, it kind of is. Like, we're not seeing, snakes on our doorstep every day if you live in the cities. But I do see, certainly in summer, every day or two I see a big huntsman spider, or that I have to take outside. These things are as big as your hand, these big brown spiders. They're harmless, and they catch a lot of flies, but there's a lot of big lizards, and if you go out in the bush, you will see snakes now and again. Although usually they keep to the shadows. They don't like to be disturbed. So you stomp, and they'll avoid you. But I've been stung by a stingray, as I've witnessed in the past before. Just a little one. It wrapped its little stinger around me, and that hurt. I basically felt like I had a swollen ankle for a month or two. There's crazy crocodiles, which are 7 meters long up in the Northern Territory. They're no joke. They're like dinosaurs, basically. Kangaroos that are 7 foot tall, big red kangaroos. So it's just crazy as they say, but Australia is a big continent, so you're not seeing all these things all in one part. Dear. That's what happens. Unedited, raw footage. Use your elbow, catch it. All right, well, I'm not getting sick. Well, whatever eyes that, Scott. So Netflix says, thanks for your time you put into games and wish you and your family all the best. Oh, thank you, my friend. And thank you to you as well for being a fan and enjoy your Netflix. I love Netflix. Iwumbo asks, what's your favorite Sword and Sandals game you ever made? Do you have a personal favorite? Sword and Sandals 2 is my favorite by far. The original Sword and Sandals 2. I feel like it was the perfect balance between fast arena gameplay and quirkiness and fun. Every game since I've tried to make more and more complicated and crazy. And I'd love to go back to that original. Although Crusader Redux is going to be up there with my favorites too. Yes, I love how that's turned out. It feels to me like how Crusader 1 should have been. Chrissy Pinko asks, will there ever be a Sword and Sandals 4 Redux? The game is probably the buggiest of them all, but despite that, it's still my favorite one. Another person that likes Crusader Redux. There will probably not going to be a remake of that. Although maybe I'll do a proper sequel one day. It all depends. Maybe I'll make enough money that I can just pay someone else to make a remake. That'd be awesome. But thanks for being a fan. Gabi Mando asks, Crusader Redux seems to play a lot slower than the original. Is that the gameplay aspect you were looking for? And is it something you want to replicate with 6? I kind of feel like it's faster, but it might just be me. I feel like certainly in combat it's faster, but you have to play it to decide. It's more strategic. There's more options, and maybe that feels a bit slower. But I kind of like the pace of it. It feels slower in some ways because you can't just go all around the map in one turn. Maybe that's it. But Sword and Sandals 6, I want to capture the Sword and Sandals 2 fast-paced gameplay. I don't want to feel... 3 was a bit lumbering with the combat. Attack, that kind of thing. So we'll see. The Lewd Denmarkian asks, what type of girl do you like? Wow. I like my wife. She's the love of my life. And I love... Yeah. In the past, I guess I've gone for brunettes. I've, had some blonde girlfriends and so on, but I tend to be sort of attracted to sort of dark-haired girls. I don't know. Dark features. Go figure. What do you like? Have you ever ventured into a world of Rule 34? And if so, what's your taste? I'd never heard about Rule 34 until one of these asked me anything. And I'm so naive I had to look it up. And I was like, so that's what it is. And for those who don't know, it's something like if something becomes popular enough on the internet, someone will make some kind of porno of it, some, porn art, that kind of stuff, or hentai, or whatever it is. I've never looked it up. I've never looked up Swords and Sandals versions of it. I'm assuming it exists. That'd be kind of funny if it does. Stranger things have happened. But it also means that Swords and Sandals is popular, so that's awesome. That's hilarious. Yeah. So that's where we go with that. And there's some comments under that. All right. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend go looking for it unless you want to be surprised. Antares has 9 questions, so let's see how we go. Are you planning to collaborate with a team of people for Sword and Sandals 6? Yeah, I want to get a full-time artist on it. Well, not full-time, but contract for the whole job to do all the armor and weapons and get some background art and so on, and a musician as well. So I guess that's a team for the whole project. What do you think he won't include in Sword and Sandals 6? Probably won't be any sort of roguelike dungeons or anything like that. Probably not little sort of choose your own adventure style things. We'll see, but it's hard to know. I want to really focus on the arena combat style of the game. He asks, could you teach us or show us how you made your historic Flash games like Crusader and Sword and Sandals 2? If you go back and look at my early videos, I did some sort of behind the scenes of the games. Just check this channel out. There's like hundreds of videos, but the early ones where I play them, I talk about how I made them and that kind of thing. It doesn't go into that much detail, but maybe in a longer video I'll sit down, and it's one of those things that I don't know how many people will be interested in it because it's Flash, and Flash is sort of dead technology. Can you tell us how to edit or mod the Flash game, since you can inspect but not mod the game files with a decompiler? Whereas I saw you had a map of North America and Sword and Sandals within the files. Yeah, that was what I was using for the template. you can only really recompile them with the source files, and one day I might make the old source files free, and that's how you do it. But Flash things are sort of moddable, but sort of not in the way that Unity kind of has. You got to design it from the beginning. Will Sword and Sandals 6 include Steam achievements? Yes, and not only will that, I'm planning on going back and putting Steam achievements in the classic games and in Medieval and Pirates and that kind of thing. Hopefully that's coming over the next month or so. Little surprise. Are you thinking of writing a book or an ebook with the entire timeline and facts and myth busting and stuff? Yeah, I was thinking about that. That'd be cool. Hopefully I can turn the Tome of Lore into a proper ebook once it's big enough. I've also written another like a choose and adventure style book called The Tower of Bargle or The Tower of the Sorcerer or something like that, which is about 25,000 words, but it got sort of put aside while I worked on stuff. Lots of stuff in the pipeline. Still bug fixes or patches in the classic series. Yeah, there are. There's definitely things I need to fix, so I plan on doing some next week and beyond. I plan to make Sword and Sandals 6 look more like the original Sword and Sandals 2 or the Redux. More like the Redux, but it'll be like, really nice sort of colorful anime backgrounds and probably the same character style, but the characters will be more cartoony. They won't have that sort of painted look from 2 Redux. I know a lot of people didn't love. It's going to be the most polished by far of those games. But any particular things you fear or look forward to in an upcoming game like Sword and Sandals 6? My biggest fear is that nobody likes it, or that not enough people like it, that I can't keep making these games. Because I basically have to rely on the incomes from this game and all the previous games for the next year and a half while I work on it full time. I need this game to sell, pretty significant copies for it to be able to keep working on it full time. Otherwise, I gotta go back and get a real job again. So that's my biggest fear, is that it doesn't live up to what I want it to be and what you guys don't want it to be. I look forward to just getting another crack at an arena game. I haven't made a decent arena game since Sword and Sandals 3, really, because Medieval was fine, but it was, didn't quite hit the spot, and the Redux versions were okay. There's some good points, but I really want to get back and put in all the things I've learned. Fast-paced combat plus this action point system. I can't wait to see how that actually plays out, and multiplayer. Thanks for all the questions. Prohine Gamer asks, when are you going to do after Sword and Sandals 3 State of Redux? I'll start on Sword and Sandals 6 in 2021. Can't wait. Seth asks, is Sword and Sandals 6 going to look like the older games or new twists? Lots of twists, lots of polish. I want to keep the classic style of change it, but the one that everyone knows the most is the classic style. Dilsan asks, how much have you spent on Games to Games Gladiator? A lot of the time I've just played demos. I've done the sort of like play for a while on Steam, get a refund. I have an Xbox Game Pass as well, which is great for getting, you basically pay a subscription fee and you can try all these games out. It's awesome, the Xbox Ultimate Game Pass, and that's, hundreds of dollars. But I have spent hundreds of dollars on games in the past, way too much. So, that's why I try to play the old games that are available online and stuff like that. Predetermined Meat asks, how do you still make games? It's been so long since you've done this for a long. Yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years, but I do it for a job now, and it's my hobby and my passion, so I hope I can still do it when my hair is all grey and I'm old. Wojtek Wozniak asks, the Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux is coming to Steam. Holy peck, it's my birthday on the 10th of the 10th. Oops, unfortunately, it was supposed to be then, but it's now the 4th of November. Happy birthday for the other day, my friend. I hope it was a good one. And hopefully this can be a belated birthday gift. Whiskey asks, are you going to add more factions to Crusader Redux in the future? Probably not. If the game is hugely popular, if it sells many thousands of dollars of copies, and it'd be worth going back and putting some other stuff in. But it would mean adding more missions and really mixing it up. And I think more people are looking forward to 6, really. Stealthy Spectre asks, will you remove the defensive bonus armor enchant in Sword and Sandals 6? All the enchants and stats and everything are going to get a complete overhaul. So nothing that existed in the past will be the same as a new one. All completely reworked. King Parmejar asks, in Sword and Sandals 6 is going to be another ninja boss? Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. I want to have that fast-paced jumping around ninja, and this game will certainly have a lot more athletic feats in it. Is 3 a prequel or a sequel? It's a sequel to 2. And so chronologically it goes Pirates, 1, 2, Crusader, 3, 4 is set at the same time as 3. It's basically a bunch of board games they played. 5 is set about 20 years after that, and 6 is about 20 years after that, or 20 or 30 years after that. And Medieval and Spartacus have their own timeline. Why did the evil ninja run away from her home? I can't remember. You should do more samurai dudes. I should. But I'll come up with a theory for evil ninja story one day. I've forgotten. Doomguy asks, will we ever see Sword and Sandals on different consoles like PS4, Xbox, or Switch? Maybe Sword and Sandals 6 could come to Switch. Excuse me. I know that Spartacus was on Switch, and it did okay. Didn't set the world on fire, unfortunately. I wish it had, but I'd love to make Sword and Sandals 6 on those consoles. We'll see how well it goes. I'm gonna bring it on Steam, and if it does well on Steam, I'll use some of that money to port it. And will Death Row ever come out again? Oh, Death Row was a little game I made with a prisoner who was on death row, basically, and you had to try and keep him alive, like a prisoner Tamagotchi. Maybe I'll remake that one day if I ever stop making Sword and Sandals games. Thanks for the questions, man. Let's Play writes 1. 2. Van Ruxius asks 2. There's some numbers there. He Chaos asks, why the Death Imperium soldiers need to eat food in Sword and Sandals Pirates, and why do they die to poisonous gases? That's a bug, I think. I need to fix that. Hassan Shaker asks, Swords and Sandals Gladiator! More of a comment, really. Thank you. And that's the last question, because the camper also wrote first. And that's it. Well, that's an anticlimactic end to a lot of fun. This went over an hour, and I don't know if how many people sort of paid attention and stuck around right to the end, but I want to thank you for being fans of the series. There'll be 1 or 2 more videos before the game launches, and I'm going to bring back Games Gladiator. And Games Gladiator will do a special on Sword and Sandal Crusader Redux. We'll play through the first chapter or 2 and have a bit of fun. These AMAs are always a lot of fun. I know they go for ages. I know they're not that structured, and I do apologize that you have to sift through the whole thing to find your questions, but hopefully you find them entertaining and informative enough to want to stick around. And thanks for being fans of the game. If you haven't wishlisted Crusader, I'd appreciate it if you would check it out. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, even after all this, then of course you can below and click the little bell for notifications. Thanks again, guys. This is exhausting. It's a lot of fun. Now I go back and do some programming. All right. Until next time, my friends. Bye for now.